adopted her for the week. I will sing my real mother's favorite song that I sing. Edelweiss, Edelweiss.
That's a good old
Every morning you greet me, all and white, clean and bright. You look happy to meet me. Blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow, bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland forever. I used to sing. Used to have a wedding group called Cloud 9, and then we used to do weddings. And we haven't sang for about 10 years though. But now I sing a little bit on the bus when I try to entertain people to take their mind off having to go to the rest area or whatever. So how's that?
A wonderful trip again, and you're taking our pictures again.
Well, here we are at McDonald's. We got homesick for Centerville type food. So we stopped here with Ginger at McDonald's. Try to make us feel more at home.
This is just a rest stop. We're not eating here. That's because my doctor will not allow me to eat here.
All we do is eat and ride, right?
You know that commercial on television where the rose petals come down and ding, 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 and did I win the lottery? That's the reason why I ordered this. It's the fruit and yogurt parfait. Well, I went up to the counter and I said to the lady, I want the fruit and yogurt parfait. Sure, she said. And I waited for the rose petals, and I looked around, and I looked around, and I was waiting for the, and then I was waiting for the, lady, you hit the jackpot, ding, 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 ding. Nothing. She took my money, gave me the yogurt, and here I am. No rose petals, no lottery, but I'm loving it.
As we motor down the highway on the bus with our driver Mikey in control, my biggest worry is, how am I going to eat all those buffets that I see on our schedule? There are like 4 breakfast buffets and 3 dinner buffets. How am I going to handle that? There must be some way to do that without busting my diet.
Let's see if I can get down here.
But I'm looking forward to the Le Monde in the French Quarter, which is supposed to have those tasty beignets that Irene Davis keeps telling us about. My mouth just waters thinking about it.
I took the fish nice fish. Cornbread dressing. I'm gonna try some carrots.
He took the last of them.
There's about 5 left. Now for some of this tasty chicken and rice homemade soup. And this delicious plate of mixture of fish and vegetables. Then over here, a nice plate of fresh shrimp right from the Gulf. Wow, this is gonna taste so good. Wish you were here.
Okay. Good morning, John. Here we are at the beautiful Imperial Palace. I'm a little lighter this morning. I was a little heavier yesterday, and I don't mean from food. We're on our way to New Orleans to have those, let's see, what's the name of that donut that, I call them beignets, but they're not beignets. They're beignets. Oh, they're beignets and coffee. I can't wait. Powdered sugar on top. I don't think Bill's Donuts has them in Centerville, do they? That's it. We have plenty of mushrooms. I got So Tom's the only one that didn't really and we always told him to go for some reason because he's this my brother.
How's your space?
No! Oh, I'm sorry.
You tell Mikey he's got
Good morning, John. Good morning, everyone.
But it looks like it's
Now, how many rest areas have you ever been into that's very beautiful inside, very informative, and magnificent
And it's not real
flavored
strong.
coffee? It's wonderful coffee. Why, I just may go up and down the state of Louisiana and have coffee all day. This is wonderful. Thank you, Louisiana. Thank you for the wonderful coffee. Flavored too.
Oh, for heaven's sakes!
Hi, John.
After a prayer, I sell a joke. And I realized it never hit me. Finally, about 4 or 5 days, I said, you know.
Lake Pontchartrain.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah, that's nice, yeah.
What you call this one? Lake.
It's at Lake Pontchartrain.
Manchester.
Pontchartrain.
Lake Pontchartrain? Pontchartrain, not the Mississippi River. So it's not when the sun goes down and the stars come out. La da 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 da. That's Mississippi blood. That's Mississippi blood. Oh, thanks, Kay. That old he rolling, he keeps on rolling along. Uh-oh. That's all.
What you got?
A.
Superdome?
Yes, that's what we're picking up.
Superdome is right here. Some of you can't see it yet, but it's right to our right.
Hi, everybody.
Look for us, huh?
Yeah, that's right on you guys. Okay. And your name, sir?
I am Mike Bauer.
Mike?
Mike. They all know me as Mikey, and I feel free
Mikey?
to call me Mikey.
I'll call you Mike.
And this is Mike.
Hi,
Irene.
how
Irene
are you?
Davis.
Irene Carol Boasberg.
Nice to know you.
Nice to
Nice
meet
to have
you.
you on board, Carol.
Thank you very much, Irene.
Pete Davis. I'm her husband.
And you're her husband.
Do you want to meet everybody on the bus, Carol?
Now, Mike, hold on 1 second before we take off.
Okay, that's
Good
fine.
morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to New Orleans. My name is Carol, and if you've got any questions this morning, please feel free to ask. And if I can answer them, I'd be delighted to. And if I can't, I'm very modest, I'll tell you so. How about that? First, I want you all to take a look at this building over here. This is the Superdome. This is the 8th wonder of the world. Started on August the 1st, 1971, and finished in 1975 at the cost of $163 million. Built on 9 acres of land, the dome part is made of polyurethane, and the sides of the dome are made of treated aluminum. Inside, it can accommodate 80,000 people, has 52 convention rooms, 9,000 tons of air conditioning, 32 escalators, and 10 elevators. A super TV screen, 6-sided, 22 feet by 26 feet. In case you miss anything down in the arena, you can see the closed circuit on the TV screen. It is a state project, not a city project, and they say that if you took the Astrodome from Houston and brought it here, you could fit it into the Superdome without it ever touching the top or sides. So not everything in Texas is big. Don't you forget it. Okay, Mike, we're ready to roll now. Have you been here before?
No, I have not. So any suggestions you got, I'll listen.
Okay, your other 2 buses have been here and gone.
Oh, have they been already?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
We stopped at the rest area, so they were nice and relieved before they got here.
Yes. Where did you come in from?
Just Biloxi.
Oh, yes, and where's everybody from all over?
Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, straight on now, Mike. I want to tell you a little about the beginnings of New Orleans. The city was founded originally in 1718 by a Frenchman called Bienville, who came here from Canada, which was then a French province. And he was sent here by Louis XIV, King of France, to move the capital from Fort Biloxi on the Gulf Coast further upriver. And New Orleans was founded because it's the highest point of elevation along the way. Now, originally, ladies and gentlemen, Louisiana was under French rule from 1718 to 1763. Under Spanish rule from 1763 to 1803 when Napoleon took us back, and 20 days later he sells Louisiana and its surrounding territories to the Americas for $15 million, 4.5 cents an acre. And that's never going to happen again. That's for sure. That was the Louisiana Purchase. Now, in Louisiana, now when you get a chance, get into your left lane. It doesn't have to be anytime soon.
Okay.
In Louisiana, we have both Creoles and Cajuns. And I want to explain to you what a Creole is. Derived from the Spanish word Criolla, which means to create. They were the first generation of French or Spanish born here in Louisiana, children of the colonies. Creoles very small in stature. The average size of a Creole gentleman 5'3". The ladies 4'7". The ladies had sallow skin, big brown eyes, full lips, curly hair, and inclined to plumpness as they grew older. And on a 4'7" frame, that wouldn't be hard, right, ladies? But they had a wonderful attitude in life. Eat, drink, and be merry, because tomorrow we die. I may not look like a Creole, but I definitely have their attitude. You're only going around this world once, and you better make the most of it. No second chance on this one. This is it. If I ever reach 90, I'm just going to pop pills and drink. Because I'll probably be in La La Land anyway, so it won't matter. The Papillon Hotel there on your left-hand side, That hotel was going to be pulled down, but a group of enterprising young gentlemen got together, decided to give it a facelift, and I think they did a really nice job at it. And I want you to see the cupola on the building over there on your left. At one time, that was the tallest building here in New Orleans, used as an observation deck. That's no longer true. It's just a landmark in the city, and you see it lit up at night time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you know, the population of the city of New Orleans, straight on, the population of the city of New Orleans is dropping slightly. In the last census, we're slightly below 500,000 people. Today, the city of New Orleans is 65% black, 35% white, and the second largest ethnic group in the city today, after the black people, believe it or not, are the Italians. No, not Greek, honey. The greater New Orleans area, the population is 1.5 million. The state of Louisiana, 4.5 million people, 31,000 square miles. We're known as the Bayou State, the Pelican State, and Sportsman's Paradise. Take a look on your left, the tallest building here in New Orleans, One Shell Square, owned by the Shell Oil Company. They use 1/3 of it, and they rent out 2/3 of it. And it's got its own zip code because the post office couldn't manage it. 52 stories high. Not bad for our swampy land. On your right over here, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, named after Hale Boggs, who was our congressman to Washington, killed in a plane crash over Alaska, and his widow, Lindy, then became our congress lady to Washington. She's an average temperature from June to September, 95 degrees and 90% humidity. So it's a long, 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 long hot summer in Louisiana, and every day, ladies, is a bad hair day. So don't get panicked. The average rainfall 63 inches a year, but we usually get 100 inches of rain. Yes. Yes. Although this year we only made it to 63. This is another new hotel going up over here. Nothing but hotels going up in this city. And now, Mike, we're going to be taking a left here by the casino. This is Harris Casino, ladies and gentlemen. Opened up. It's open 24 hours a day. Are you staying in New Orleans? No. No. Biloxi, everybody's staying in Biloxi now. Nobody comes to New Orleans anymore. Now I want you all to take a good look at those palm trees here, everybody. They're all around. Every one of those palm trees cost $6,000 imported from Arizona. I'm in the wrong business. Now we're coming down to Canal Street. You go straight through the traffic lights, honey, when they turn green, of course.
She called me Sonny.
Mikey.
Mike, that's my father's name was Michael. Michael O'Brien. I have a brother, Michael O'Brien. I have two nephews, Michael O'Brien. My son's second name is Michael.
He's a good boy, isn't he?
Great boy. He's had his moments there. It hasn't been all easy, but he never really did anything too bad. He was a bit wild, but look at his mother and father. What do you expect? Passing over Canal Street, the main street of New Orleans. This is it, and it got its name from a canal that was to be built in the center there. Never got built, but they kept the name. Now we have moved into the French Quarter, ladies and gentlemen. This is the original city where the Creoles lived. The French Quarter is a very small area, 13 blocks down, 10 blocks across. And in the French Quarter, we've had two great fires. The first fire broke out in 1788 in the home of the Spanish Army treasurer, Vincent Nunez. It was Good Friday, and his wife had a candle lit in the window, and the Drakes caught flames. And the only way they could summon the people in the French Quarter and tell them there was a fire was the church bells would ring out. But because it was Good Friday, no church bells rang. 856 buildings destroyed. 6 years later, in 1794, another fire broke out. 200 buildings destroyed. Louisiana was actually under Spanish rule at the time. So when they were rebuilding the French Quarter, it was all Spanish architecture. And that's what you're looking at today. The French Quarter, Spanish architecture. Spanish architecture has a lot of hidden patios and shuttered windows, and when you take a stroll in the quarter, you'll notice that. The original plans for the French Quarter drawn out in France, and this is why we have all these French names: Toulouse, Burgundy, Dauphine, Bourbon. Bourbon Street, ladies and gentlemen, is named after the royal house of Bourbon, not after bourbon whiskey, for which I think it would be much more aptly named. And then if you took a stroll on Bourbon Street, you'll understand perfectly what I'm talking about. We're famous for our drinks here. We have the Ramus Gin Fizz, the Hurricane, the Sazerac. The Sazerac has a whiskey base, and one gentleman told his son, when you get to New Orleans, my son, drink a Sazerac for me and one for yourself, and the third one for the devil, for no mortal can accomplish that. He was right. Now we're coming down to the heart of the French Quarter, Jackson Square on your left-hand side, everybody. As we drive by Jackson Square, I want you to notice how all our mules have diapers. This square was laid out in 1721 by nice and slow here now, Mike. Very slow, darling. This square was laid out in 1721 by a French engineer called Adrien de Pouget, and in 1856 the statue of Andrew Jackson was placed in the center of the square, and it became known as Jackson Square. Behind it, St. Louis Cathedral, built by the Spanish for the French, dedicated by an Irishman, Father Patrick Welch, had a Swiss guard for many years, is used today mostly by the Italians, and the chapel is dedicated to the patron saint of Mexico, Our Lady of Guadalupe. You got the history of New Orleans all in one sentence, and I'm nearly dead. These red brick buildings, and are you all listening now? Yes. These red brick buildings on either side of the square are apartments. There's a waiting list of about 10 years to get into these apartments. 16 units on each side. One side belongs to the city, and the other side belongs to the state. Beautiful apartments. And on your right-hand side, everybody, is Café Du Monde. This is where they serve coffee and beignets. Beignets are little square donuts covered with powdered sugar, a great New Orleans tradition. And if you're a native New Orleanian, you would dunk your beignet in your coffee and chicory, and that's how you'd eat it. Café Du Monde is open 24 hours a day, so none of you have an excuse for not going by there later. And remember, everybody, that New Orleans is the coffee drinking capital of the United States. We're very particular about our coffee. We like it as strong as the devil, as black as death, as sweet as love, and as hot as hell. The bronze statue on your left is of Joan of Arc, donated to the city by General de Gaulle in 1960 and referred to by the natives as Joni on the Pony. Outdoor cafes all along here. You can come down here this afternoon, listen to some jazz music, have a pina colada, and drink and eat, have po' boy sandwich. You know what a po' boy sandwich is? 2 slices of French bread, dressed with lettuce and tomato, and you can have fried oysters or shrimp or catfish or whatever. On your left-hand side, the farmer's market, open 24 hours a day. This is where all the hotels and restaurants of New Orleans come to get their fresh produce. Anybody can come by here. And during the summer, we have a lot of watermelons there. And last year, grown locally, last year I was giving a tour, and I was showing the people on the bus the watermelons, and one gentleman said to me, "They're not watermelons, they're Texas cucumbers." And I waited till I got that sucker to the end of the tour, and I showed him the Superdome. Patience is a virtue, seldom found in a woman, but never in a man. Right, ladies? Again, on your left-hand side, the flea market, opened every day from 9 to 6. I know some of you ladies would like to be left out here, but if I left you out here, I'd never see you again. End of tour. Come back in your own time. Keep going straight now, Mike. Now, over here on your left-hand side, this red brick building is the old U.S. Mint, built in 18 1935 minted coins for the whole lower Mississippi Valley in this building from 1835 to 1910, except during the Civil War years. Our former Governor Edwin Edwards awarded us some money to turn part of this building into a jazz museum, which is now open to the public. And in here you can hear the first recordings of Louis Armstrong and Jelly Roll Morton. Louis Armstrong was born here on July the 4th, 1900, got his start in jazz in Storyville, the red light district of New Orleans, closed down in 1918 by the Secretary of the Navy, Mr. Daniels, because he said it was corrupting all his men. Louis Armstrong left New Orleans in 1923 for Chicago, New York, and from there all over the world, where he got the recognition he so justly deserved. And remember, everybody, that jazz is America's only true art form, and it got its start right here in New Orleans. The black people used to congregate on Sunday afternoon in Congo Square, and there they performed their native music along with their native instruments. And it was that sound combined with spirituals, blues, folk songs, and the European brass band sound that gives us today what we know as Dixieland jazz. Believe it or not, my vibrant style, long slender windows, columns, and recessed doorways. And you're going to see this style of architecture throughout the city of New Orleans. Take a look, everybody, coming up on your right-hand side. And look at the ironwork on the balcony to the side. That's cast iron, very ornate, poured into molds and set. Downstairs you have the Ionic columns. On top you have the Corinthian columns. You see that? Long slender windows and the recessed doorway. That is a very typical of the style of architecture you're going to see in New Orleans. Then this is a hodgepodge of all styles of architecture along here. And again, the pink house on your right is Greek Revival, Ionic columns and Corinthian, and then right alongside are all Doric columns. Take a look on your left-hand side. Restoring, look at this beautiful cypress door in that house. Cypress, referred to by the Indians as the eternal wood because it's not affected by rain or humidity. And I can assure you we have a lot of both of those things in Louisiana. Look at this house on your right that's falling apart. But if this house could only talk, what stories it could tell us. Look to your right, see how big the house is. Inside it has the beautiful hardwood floors, the high ceilings, the marble fireplaces, or if they're not marble, they're at least painted. Now take a look at this house over here with the flags. That was the home of the famous French impressionist Edgar Degas. Degas came here to visit his uncle Michel Mousson, who was Postmaster General of Louisiana. Degas also brought with him at the same time his brother Rene, who fell in love with Mousson's daughter Estelle, his first cousin, who had been born blind from birth. Rene and Estelle got married and had 4 children, and he then ran off with her best friend, Miss Olivier. Times haven't changed. Nothing changes. We just keep on making the same mistakes over and over again. Well, you know that. Yes. That's it. Yep. Now, ladies and gentlemen, take a good look coming up. Now, this is a very typical New Orleans neighborhood. Singles and doubles throughout the whole area. First, ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to take a look over here on your right-hand side. All housed in southern Louisiana in years gone by were built a half a story to a full story off the ground on stilts, and that was in case of flooding because of termites. We no longer fear either of those things, so we have filled in underneath in a lot of these old homes. Coming up down here, look at this house with the red steps leading up to Victorian in design, has one of the longest hallways here in New Orleans. A single family home. Take a look. Look at the gazebo to the side. That house was sold about a year and a half ago for $1 million. And look at all these houses are being restored. A very typical New Orleans neighborhood. And over here to your right, take a good look. 2 blocks down there, we have horse racing. From Thanksgiving until Easter, every day except Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And then it moves into the next parish. Louisiana, unlike any other state in the Union, instead of being divided into counties, ladies and gentlemen, we're divided into parishes. And that's because of our Catholic heritage. So when I talk about parishes, it's basically the same as counties in the states that you come from. 64 parishes in the state of Louisiana: Ascension, Assumption, St. John the Baptist, St. Tammany, St. Charles, St. Joseph, St. Mary, St. James, and so forth. I'm going to give you a break and not name all 64 today. It's too early. Yeah, way too early for that, honey. Coming up down here on your left-hand side, we're going to pass by a long, narrow house, which we call a shotgun house. And it's the house with the red shutters over here on your left. And let me explain to you what a shotgun house is. In the old French law, having a hallway, you were taxed. So these houses don't have any hallways. It's just a room behind a room, behind a room, behind a room, behind a room, like a Pullman car. And they say that if you open the front door and open the back door and shot a bullet through, you wouldn't kill anything but the chicken in the backyard. Now, Mikey, go over to your right here because we're going to stop at the cemetery.
Yeah, we gotta see this.
Is there any more parking up?
No, there isn't. Oh, there's a bus pulling out. You got lucky.
All right.
This is really lucky.
This is the cemetery.
Yeah, this is it.
Very, very particular about this.
Whoa.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, in years gone by here in Louisiana, when they buried their dead, when the rains came, washed away all the earth, and all the coffins rose to the top. So we had to find an alternative way of burial. So we have above ground burial. This is used in France, Spain, the West Indies, South America, parts of New Zealand, but here in America, unique to New Orleans and southern Louisiana. Now, there are different embalming laws in different states, and yes, we have embalming here. And when a person dies here, they're placed in a wooden casket and placed in the family tomb. And the official time allowed for decomposition of the body is a year and a day, which means that the family tomb cannot be opened at any cost for a year and a day after the last member of the family has been put in. Now, naturally, we don't open it until we need it again, which hopefully will be 10 or 20 years. And what we do then is we open up the family tomb, open up the wooden casket, push the bones to the back of the tomb where they fall into a pit or a caveau, as they say in French. We take out the wooden casket and burn it, and the tomb is ready for the next member of the family. And that's why when you stand in front of one of our family tombs, you see a whole list of names written. In this particular cemetery from 1852, when it was consecrated, right down to the present day. And everybody asks, how come so many people can be buried in the one tomb? And that's the way it's done. It's a very practical way of burial. It's very economical, and it's ecologically correct, especially with the population explosion. Now, the only problem of those years, you had maybe 2 and 3 members dying within a year and a day. When that happened, you rented a vault along the back wall of the cemetery up here on your right. You put the second member of the family until such time as a year and a day had passed since the last member was put in the family tomb, and the whole process could start all over again. And this is the only form of burial in this city up to 1946, and then we're allowed cremation. So now, naturally, today we have lots of cremation. But anybody whose ancestors have already established a family tomb, this is still the way they're buried. Or if any of you came to Louisiana today and you wanted to establish a family tomb, you could do so. We have 41 of these cemeteries in the greater New Orleans area. 5 largest ones like this one belong to the Catholic Church, and the others belong to the city. And people love to know how much does it cost. Some of these are built out of granite and marble. Neither of those building materials here in Louisiana, costing as much as $70, $80, $90, $100,000. There are some of them over in Metairie Cemetery, $500,000. Can you believe that? Some of them are just built out of granite, out of brick stuccoed over on the outside and a little piece of marble on the front. A big difference in price between those ones and the ones built out of granite and marble. A few years ago, they were building a tomb back there, and I happened to be giving a tour, and I asked the guy, how much are you looking for that? And he said $85,000. And I said, I guess you'll be a while selling it. I came back 2 weeks later, and there was a family inside it. Now, if I had $85,000, I'd eat it, drink it, and put it on my back. Livonian Benevolent Association, the priests of the diocese, the nuns, the firemen, the policemen, all kinds of organizations, had what you call a society so you could be buried in the society tomb. Notice how that can be opened at 12 different times during the year if 12 different members of that organization die within a year and a day. A much, much cheaper form of burial than establishing your own family tomb. You know, look at Morano over here. Look at all those names written there. Don't you think that's a fantastic way of burial? Yes. And you know what happens then? What happens when they fill it up? They usually, sometimes they take the front off, put that on the side, put up a new front, and start writing all over again. So it's a really practical way of doing it. Look at all those people.
And they all belong to the same family?
All belong to the same family. So you better get along with your family, because if you don't like one of them, there's nothing you can do.
That's right. Gonna end up with them.
We
still end up with them.
You'll end up with them no matter what happens. You know? So you might as well try to get along.
Absolutely.
Now, this is Creamy Store here. The first person was buried here in 1875. The last one was buried here in 1931. And there's nobody up here. They may decide not to put any more names. I don't know. But it's been restored. You can see it. It's at perpetual care here. You see it? Perpetual care. In years gone by, the most important day of the year in Louisiana was All Souls Day. On All Souls Day, everybody came to visit the family tomb. They whitewashed it, they cleaned it up. They had a picnic, they held a vigil. It was like a social occasion until All Saints Day came. So they would do everything to keep it up. But you know, people are so busy and working so hard for the almighty dollar, because we have to have 5 televisions and 10 telephones in the house. We haven't time anymore to do all those things. So anybody establishing a family tomb today, or anybody restoring a family tomb today, has to make perpetual care payments. There's so many abandoned and neglected family tombs. Yes. What is that? What the poet said? What is this life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare. No time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep and cows. Right? That's why I don't want a full-time job. You know where we came from? There's so many of them. Either, as I said, the families died out or moved away. Actually, what has happened, there's so many of them that the state legislature has passed a law saying that the cemeteries can contact all known members of a family tomb that's falling down, give them 3 years to come and clean it up. If nobody comes in, they can come in and clean it up, but they can't remove the bones for another 2 years, so it's a 5-year process. And then after that, they can actually sell that to somebody else. They have to, because it's they really love. And another good thing is there is an association of people that have got together and they raise funds to help restore a lot of these old, because it's our heritage. You know, and they are restoring. You know, we have to be able to restore. We have to be able to look back, to go forward. And know the way it was. Yeah, and know the way it was. It's very important. Exactly. Very. So a lot of people are getting together and raising funds and restoring these tombs. And what kind of an organization is this now? Are you just? Is that it? You knew it. I just knew by your coloring, and that's why I asked. I was looking at all of them. I said, no, that's I just said. Oh, yeah, you didn't look Greek, mind you.
No, we're not. They're not all Greek.
No, but I knew the color, you know, Mediterranean. Yeah, I knew. I'm going to show you because it's our church.
Oh, good.
They have a big festival the last weekend in May.
Oh, ours is in September.
Don't smack at it.
You'll make it now.
No, it's just it's funny.
Ours is in September.
But I was looking at the city are St. Louis #1 and #2, and they're right outside the French Quarter. Very historic. All the first mayor of New Orleans buried in all kinds of things. With what's her name? Ashley Judd. All that movie was filmed here in New Orleans in the French Quarter. Did you see that movie?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
And how about Emerald Lagasse?
Oh, let me tell you, he's got 3 restaurants in the city.
Yeah.
Emerald, his original restaurant, which has a very loud noise because it's in a warehouse and the noise factor drives me mad.
Okay.
And then he's got one in the French Quarter called Nola, which the best one is, the only one I like, which I go to is Emerald de Monaco.
Okay.
I'll show it to you. It's in Charles Avenue. Very expensive, darling.
Yes, I know. I know. I watch him all the time on TV. Do you have him down here on TV all the time?
Yeah.
We do too.
Well, let me tell you, honey, you're looking at $50 for dinner.
Forget it.
For lunch? For lunch, too. For Sunday brunch, you go $3,500 for something. Oh, he's very good. He's very good.
Yes.
But he's not cheap.
But I'd like to see his restaurant. At least go by it. Are we going to?
Yeah, we're going to go by.
Okay.
This is really his nicest one, and
Okay.
it's very, very well done.
Okay.
And this is the one I go to. I don't go to his other two. I don't
Okay.
like him,
All right. Yes.
but I do like. I love this one.
Okay. Very good.
I'm a professional eater out, honey.
Awesome. Right.
I don't cook.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
Now we're entering City Park, fifth largest municipal park in the United States, 1,500 acres. In here we have 4 18-hole golf courses, 60 tennis courts, horseback riding, bicycle riding, and a little miniature train that goes a little ways around the park for the children. We also have 3 schools in here, Delgado Junior College, John F. Kennedy Public School, and the Christian Brothers Private School. Straight ahead of you is the New Orleans Museum of Art, donated to the city by a crusty old bachelor called Isaac Delgado in 1910. And in here we have some of the Fabergé collection from Imperial Russia, and as we all know, that's no longer imperial, right? And look at this piece of art right here in the lily pond. Now, when the lilies are in bloom, I love it. And the art beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You know what I mean? Ladies and gentlemen, it's the palmetto palm found out in the swamps of Louisiana. And you know how Louisiana got its name, named after Louis XIV of France and his mother Anna of Austria. Louisiana. Take a left here now, honey. And as we turn the corner here, I want you all to look on your right. This reminds me of the bayous of Louisiana. You nearly expect to see an alligator coming up any minute now and taking a bite out of you. Alligators are an endangered this species, but we do have a hunting season in Louisiana from the 1st of September to the 1st of October. Last year at that time, they caught over 20,000 alligators. The meat and the tail of the alligators are white meat, quite like chicken, believe it or not. We sold the skins last year for $22 a foot in length, mostly bought by the French. Where's my gentleman in the back? And they send it all back to America in the shape of handbags, briefcases, shoes, and purses. Now this is our official stop up here in LA, love.
Wow, I've got competition today.
It's Benet, I don't know how you pronounce it. Benet mix. And it's like a donut or a pastry of some type that I heard about, and I'm going to go home and fix it.
This is the greatest Budweiser. Budweiser light.
Oatmeal ice cream. Now that's a tree. You don't climb that tree, you walk it. It's a wonderful tree to walk. Then you can go home and tell all your friends I climbed a tree, but we won't.
I don't talk for a
This is
while. I
our
can
favorite
sing.
person, Mikey.
You talk very well.
Best ride.
Best right. Best in the world.
I've never been with such a nice
Well, my head's getting bigger and bigger, John. You sure you can still fit it in that camera?
And he has a great singing voice, too. You see,
He has
voice
such
is-
talent.
He sings beautifully. My favorite from Sound of Music.
Now, everybody else, I want you all to take a look over here on your left-hand side of that body of water. Let me explain to you about that. That's called a bayou, B-A-Y-O-U, from the old Indian name Bayou, which means a river that they're not quite sure of its source, a slow-moving body of water. But this is a very interesting body of water because it connects two great bodies of water. It connects Lake Pontchartrain with the mighty Mississippi River on it. The only thing we don't have here is lobster. And the reason for that, they say, is that the lobster followed the Cajun people all the way from Nova Scotia over land and sea, and by the time it finally arrived here in Louisiana, it had lost so much weight and grown so small that we called it the crawfish. And that's what happened to our lobster. Write it down. And their motto in life is, let the good times roll. Laissez le bon temps rouler. Now, as we drive, look how beautiful the azaleas are on your right. Look at that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you don't realize, but New Orleans is between 5 and 10 or 9 and 16 feet below sea level, depending on which book you read. And that we exist at all is really a miracle, especially with the epidemics of yellow fever and cholera. They used to wipe out half the population at one go. And the last epidemic of yellow fever in this city was in 1905. At that time, 439 people died of yellow fever, and it was only then they realized it was caused by mosquitoes breeding in stagnant water. And when you think about that, that's not that long ago, is it? Now, it's interesting that the city itself is not flooded from the Mississippi River, because what we have done is built a spillway 20 miles above the city. When the level of the Mississippi rises, which it does in springtime, when the snows up north melt, we open up the spillway and we leave the excess drain out over wasteland, and that brings the level of the Mississippi down again. So that today, when New Orleans is flooded, it's flooded from rainwater, not the mighty Mississippi River. Because our every denomination is the Church of St. Charles Avenue, and the reason for that is because of the streetcar line, so nobody had an excuse for not coming to church or service, so there was method in their madness. As we go further up St. Charles Avenue, I'll be pointing out to you some of the very pretty houses on St. Charles, and these are mostly single-family homes. My dear, when your address is on St. Charles Avenue, you have arrived, if you know what I mean. I can't wait to get my house on St. Charles, and when I do, you'll never see me on the bus again. I'll own the bus. I can't wait for that day to come. You know that country and western singer Johnny Paycheck, he wrote that song, "Take this job and shove it." That's me, honey. I'm out of here. On your left, the pink and white house, Victorian in design. That house went on the market a few years ago and sold for 310 days, $310,000 in 2 days. Look at these azaleas. Look at the gorgeous. Look at that on your right. Isn't that beautiful? Gorgeous. And coming up down here again on your right-hand side is an old plantation home built by slave labor in the 1830s. And what wonderful tradesmen these people were. It was turned into a private college for women that went bankrupt in 1984, bought by Loyola University of the South, and they now use it as part of their campus. Take a look on your right-hand side. Can you imagine the ladies of the plantation up there in the balcony in their hoop skirts, sipping mint juleps and suffering from the vapors? Or maybe it was too many mint juleps. What do you think, guys? You got to picture this all in your mind's eye.
What a house.
And on your left left-hand side, everybody, the large White House with the white columns, the residence of the president of Tulane University while he's in office only. And again, on your left-hand side, Audubon Place, the only private street here in the city of New Orleans. Sometimes referred to as Millionaire's Row. Instead of Millionaire's Row, that should be referred to as Billionaire's Row. On your right, on your...
Trolley tracks right there.
Yes, they're the streetcar line. Yes, St. Charles Avenue streetcar line. And we love our streetcar, honey. And coming up down here again on your right-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, will be a large house, ladies and gentlemen, with the green roof, $2 million worth of renovation and 5 years work before they finally moved into this house. Owned by an oil millionaire who forgot to pay income tax on $7 million. The government came after him, put him in jail, and his wife divorced him. So the moral to that story is, gentlemen, if you want to keep your wife, pay your taxes. On your left-hand side. And you know that woman got lucky a second time, goes off to New York and marries Saul Steinberg, a billionaire. And you won't believe it, he's now gone bankrupt. The irony of it all. I keep up with all these things in case I get lucky one day. I want to know how the other half of the world is living. Again, on your left, a house built in 1971 in the French provincial style. House the antiques at that time cost over $1 million. And look at this house alongside it. On your left, I call that the wedding cake house. It looks like the tier of a wedding cake, doesn't it? That is getting massive renovation. They've been renovating that for months. Look at all, look at all the houses along here, how beautiful they are. Aren't they? Gorgeous. And look at the house coming up on your right. This was built for a Spanish nobleman in the 1850s, and they just did a paint job in it. And it's got the central hall, the rooms with the high ceilings off the central hall to a loft floor of air throughout the house. Take a look, everybody, as we drive by. Beautiful, isn't it? And again, here on your right-hand side, the painted ladies, the pink house and the blue house. Take a look. And on your left-hand side, the White House with the green shutters, a replica of the house Tara in Gone with the Wind. And frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. If I'm not living in it, I don't care. Again, look at the red brick house, the massive ionic columns in it. A single family home. Beautiful, isn't it? And look at this is my house on your left, the beige house. I'm beige, the dog is beige, the car is beige, the furniture is beige, my clothes are beige. I could move in there tomorrow morning. I don't have to do a thing. Up down here again on your right-hand side, New Orleans Public Library, donation to the city by Harry Ladder in memory of his son Milton, who was killed in Japan in World War II. And all the original furnishings came with this house. It's very beautiful inside. New Orleans Public Library. Take a look as we drive by.
Let's put a check on the... Yeah, right.
Nice. And on your left-hand side, coming up the White House with all the black ironwork around it, Orleans Ladies Club for women only, and that's not going to change. And they don't even have a mailbox over there, they have a post box. Watch out for those southern bells, huh? All the houses here, look how pretty they are as we drive by. And coming up down here again on your left-hand side will be pink and white house. This house has moved forward from 4 blocks behind in sections. They had to have their address on St. Charles Avenue. See the pink and white house on your left-hand side. And again, coming up on your left-hand side, an unusual house for New Orleans built in the Romanesque style. Notice the finest grade of marble leading up to the house. This house is imported, this marble is imported from Italy. This house was bought 24 years ago for $1.9 million, and they have been renovating it ever since. An investment banker from an old New Orleans home, an old New Orleans family. Beautiful, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of course, having the flowers makes a big difference too, doesn't it?
Rocking chairs.
And then on your left-hand side, look at Sacred Heart School for Girls, a private Catholic school for girls from kindergarten through 12th grade. Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful. Gorgeous building.
Carol, I hear Sarah, but I don't see it.
Well, don't worry about it, darling. There's nothing we can do.
Okay.
My idea is, where are we going to go? in this big bus. We can't go anywhere. And coming up down here again on your right-hand side, a little further down, it says one of the prettiest little churches in the city of New Orleans, built in the Gothic Perpendicular style, and you have to look up to appreciate the beauty of this church. Take a look as we drive by. And coming up again, ladies and gentlemen, on your right-hand side, is the church where they say the devil can't get you in a corner. How about that? As we drive by. And all this area we're driving through right now is known as the medical center because of all the doctors' offices and hospitals all the ways along here. They wouldn't be allowed to build on St. Charles Avenue unless they fit in with the architecture on St. Charles. So we built it like a little church and we call it St. Max on St. Charles. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for the next 12 blocks down only on your right-hand side, 5 blocks in this area is known as the Garden District. The Garden District was originally a massive plantation owned by the Liverdays family. Francois Liverdays was divorcing his wife, Celeste, and in the divorce settlement, she inherited the plantation, and as she was going to live in the court of the King of France, she sold off the plantation in lots, and at that time she got over $500,000 for her plantation. The Mississippi River was continually overflowing its banks and leaving a rich deposit of silt in the area. The area became very fertile, and that's how it got its name, the Garden District. The first house to be built in the Garden District was built in 1838 by Thomas Tobey of Pennsylvania. Thomas was a very patriotic man. He had 7 children, and he gave each of his 7 children a state name. He had Texas Henry, Alabama Emily, Carolina Clementine, Louisiana Clara, Indiana Delphine, Virginia Frances, and Pennsylvania Penny. All kitchens were separate from the main house in years gone by, and that was in case of fire, and the servant bringing food from the kitchen bound for the dining room table had to whistle a tune called the Whistler's Walk, and that was to prevent him from tasting the food bound for the dining room table.
Centerville, just eat your heart out. Here I am in New Orleans in the French Quarter, having this delicious, very delicious shrimp salad that you can't buy anywhere else but New Orleans. So I hope you don't get hungry watching me eat this. Ah.
It's a little soft.
What is that shrimp? It is good.
Bring out your fruit. Wait a minute, John. We're in New Orleans right now.
I love it!
bought it for me. You know who my godson is? His name is Glenn Albrock. And then, follow me over here. See that guy over there? Come back here. John, that man over there bought us all the furs. That's because he's so rich.
What about the bird? I want the bird.
Oh, and my husband bought me a purse. That's right. Are you ready for this? No. Are you ready for this? What do you think?
What kind is that?
This is called Fendi, not friendly. Fendi. It goes with the fur, don't you think? And the hat.
And look what Carol got also.
Oh, and look at Carol.
Hey, John. It's cocktail hour somewhere in the world. It's 10 a.m.
We're down in the French Quarter. We don't have much time. So the French Quarter is sectioned off by Canal Street, North Rampart Street, Esplanade Avenue, and Decatur Street, which follows the Mississippi River. And my wife Barbara wants to go to the French Market, which is along Decatur Street. Personally, I didn't see much French in the French Market. All I saw were crawdads and those type of things. But I have a problem with crawdads. When I was a kid here in Ohio, I used to save crawdads from the river and use them for fish bait. And I caught bigger crawdads, and then I saw them selling here at the French Market. So I just can't bring myself to eat crawdads. It just kind of turns my stomach. Irene, I know you will like this. If you're a resident homeowner in Louisiana, you qualify for the state's homestead exemption, which excludes the first $75,000 of a home's value from taxes. And residents over 65, that includes a few of us, whose annual incomes are less than $50,000, I think that includes all of us, are eligible to receive a frozen assessment as long as they live in their home. Wow. Wonder how many homes they have for sale down there. Woo.
You guys at Bill's Donut Shop in Centerville, just to eat your hearts out. Here I am at the Le Monde Cafe in New Orleans, eating these famous beignets. Ah, these look so tasty. I can't wait to eat one. Sorry, you can have one though. Ah. Woo. Man, they were hot. They're making them right back here in the back. Whoa.
No, I can't. Okay. They sure are messy, but they're good. You're supposed to dunk them. Take a bite. Very good.
out here and sell some gyros. We can make a fortune. You know, these other folks don't know good eating. Wait till they taste our gyro sandwiches.
Slovakia. Up here, Slovakia.
And Lukumanas.
And Lukumanas, yeah, that would be the big one. Hi, John. This is a great trip.
Did you see my hair? My mask? I just got it.
You guys on our trip?
No. Your eyes are hidden.
Such a bargain, John.
Eyes are hidden. Meow. Am I cat? What am I? Aren't you awfully close?
We go down to Jackson Square, which is surrounded by mimes, magicians, fortune tellers, tarot card readers, painters, musicians, and a caravan of mule-powered buggies awaiting riders. Of course, the centerpiece of Jackson Square is General Jackson. Who else would be there? And overlooking Jackson Square is St. Louis Cathedral, which has scaffolding and in the midst of a makeover. And the other building, called the Cabildo, is a three-story building flanking the side of the cathedral. Was a site of the Louisiana Purchase Transfer ceremonies in 1803. And now houses a state museum tracing Louisiana's history. On the second floor stairway, a glass case displays a death mask of Napoleon, one of 4 bronze masks taken by a doctor at his deathbed on May the 5th, 1821. As we drive along the Mississippi in Biloxi, I can't believe how wonderful that sandy beach looks. I don't see anybody out on the beach. If Mikey would just pull over, I could put my swimsuit on, and Irene and I and Barb can run out on the beach. In the lobby of the one hotel we were staying at were some classic cars. They were on loan from their hotel in Las Vegas. And they're kind of interesting. They're in top shape. I wouldn't mind driving down the French Quarter in one of these cars. So all you car buffs, just water at the mouth looking at these cars.
Are you ready?
It really feels good. You don't know what you're missing not coming in this whirlpool. Feels so nice. Feel all these bubbles. This pool is really nice and warm. This is our last night on our trip to New Orleans. We start home to Centerville in the morning. I'm gonna miss this nice warm pool though.
Your favorite spot. I know he loves it here, don't he?
What? Cracker Barrel.
My new partner. Raggedy Andy. Cute.
What'd you say you lived?
You see the red button that says REC?
Great job, Wahid.
You're not the only
Mikey,
one.
Mikey, I just want to let you know that you've done a great job, and we appreciate it, and we're looking forward to when we have you the next time.
That's
Okay?
better.
Now,
We're
let's
going to
tell you
ask
what,
for him by name.
yeah, Mikey. Everybody knows Mikey. Right.
They do.
And I'll tell you what, John.
No, Lovey.
Oh, that's Lovey. Yeah, well, that's Lovey. That's Lovey.
Click twice. All right.
I don't want her hurting her neck sleeping on my bus. He says another hug.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Record department.
There we go.